Hey, welcome to the Strong Roots Podcast. My name is Kristin Hill, and we are so excited that you're tuning in today. Our prayer is that you would move one step closer to Jesus through this series. So go ahead and check out this next episode. Welcome to the Strong Roots Podcast. We are in our fatherhood season, and I'm with Cory, and we are talking about raising all girls. And how many girls do you have?
3 girls.
Yes, and he is an exceptional dad. So I cannot wait for you guys to learn from him and for me as well. So you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay,
Let's
so
do this.
first, yes. So first question is, how have you relied on God's strength, not your own, to raise your children?
It's a good question. So there's a saying I say all the time. It's, you don't know what you don't know. And so I think going into being a father, there's a lot I didn't know.
Right.
And so I think it's been a constant, trusting in him as you go along that learning process, right? I think having kids in general, as a male, I think there were a lot of emotions I didn't know were in me until I had kids, right?
Yeah.
And so then, and I think we were talking earlier, when we didn't have kids, I think, oh, we'll have a boy, and just that was the mindset that I thought we would have. And we didn't, got a different plan. I wouldn't change it at all, but it was different. So girls have just changed my mindset on a lot of things. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? But I think it's been one of those things, constantly relying on him, because there's a lot of things I don't know. I want to say, though, Penny, my wife, is very insightful, not only in many ways as a mother, as an educator in a lot of ways. And so she has been... I couldn't have done it without her, because she's really delivered a lot of insight into me how to think and how a girl thinks versus, because I don't know.
What was the most shocking thing? Like, maybe not shocking, but what's something you wish you would have known before maybe having girls, or does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I don't know if there's any one thing. I think there's ranges, right? So it's probably more of how a guy thinks. I'm very black and white. It's just cut and dry, and probably very non-emotional about things. Yes. Right?
Yes.
And so I think it's really helped me to be more balanced in how I look at things, because there's lots of shades of gray or whatever else through. It's not black and white on many of these things. So I think that's been probably the one thing that I've had to learn how to look at things. I've often thought, why did we have all girls?
Yeah.
Right? And I think it was part of God's plan that it's made me a different man. And that's helped, both in our personal lives, but also professionally too, because I think different than if I didn't have girls.
Yes. So this might be a hard question. It makes sense. How do you think different? Because you mentioned you had emotions that you never knew you had, and it helps you think from a different perspective. Can you go into more depth for me? Because being a woman, I'm curious, because I don't think like a man.
I don't know if any one thing, but again, having girls, I think there's a sensitivity that I wasn't aware of. So when the girls got a little older, my girls play. We have our oldest, Annie, is 21, just to give context, and then we have twins that are 17, and they're going in to be their senior year of high school. So the twin girls, Sydney and Grace, they play basketball. Yep. So when they started playing basketball, they were, I don't even know, 3rd, 4th grade, let's say. And I was their first coach, because we had doing some things. Yeah. And I remember one of the first first practices we had, and we were doing whatever. And we got in the car, and they're all upset. And I'm like, what's wrong? Why are you yelling at us? I'm like, I wasn't yelling. Yes, you were. Yes. So it was one of those things. I had no idea I was yelling. I was just excited and whatever, thinking I grew up being around boys playing basketball, and I never had thought about it. So that was a good example of I had no idea. Right. And so I learned that coaching a girl is very different than a boy.
Because that would have motivated you the way you were probably talking.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So I learned a lot of carrot and very little stick with a girl.
Yes, it's so true. It's so good.
So anyway, encouragement and carrot. Encouragement goes a long way. Yeah.
Yes. So how do you encourage and speak life over your children?
It's a good question. So I think a lot of it is, Penny and I seem to be very much in line with what our job is as parents.
Yeah.
Our job is not to make them happy.
Right.
Our job is to develop successful adults that love God. That's kind of what our job is. So with that, a lot of what we try to do is just teaching all the time about everything, whether it be whether it be about money, or whether it be about relationships, or whether it be about God, or all those things. Or it's a constant. And my kids get a lot of time eye rolling, but hopefully it's because you're always teaching about whatever and using life moments to teach those things.
And it's a constant dialogue, probably.
It is. I completely lost the train of the question.
Oh, encouragement.
Encouragement. So I think with that, a lot of it is you're kind of having those life moments and then encouraging them that they can do it. And again, back to the carrot thing and the encouragement, because I've learned they get a lot more out of that than telling them what they're doing wrong.
Right.
You have to do that too, but I think trying to encourage them is different. And I also learned it's generational. Like you said, I had people growing up, and as a boy, but also I think it's generational. When people would be hard on me, it made me mad.
Yep.
And I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yep.
And it worked.
Yep.
This generation, that doesn't work.
Right.
I've kind of learned, right? So having this stick and being really on them, they kind of melt versus, right? So the encouragement is a really important thing, no matter what's going on, I think, to encourage them they can do it. And also I think just kids in general, believing in them and kind of casting a vision of what they can be, because they don't see it in themselves.
Right. As a dad, what's one of the, how you have those moments where you're like, oh, that was really awesome when and God spoke through me, or what is something that you feel like God gave you an opportunity to encourage them in a way that was really impactful? And maybe with Annie or your oldest, or where you're like, oh, I'm so glad that I said or did that.
Well, one thing, so a lot of it's what's on my mind now, but right now, I think it's relationships with boys.
Yes.
is there's been a lot of that, because it's just the season of life we're in, right, with teenagers. So I don't know if there's one thing, but I think a lot of it is, our philosophy, like maybe sidetrack a little bit. I had a sister, or my older sister was in a very conservative church, and they didn't want them dating. So they did all group things and no dating.
Okay. We've
chosen that we're going to allow them to date while they're in our home and develop those relationships.
Yeah.
And we want them to experience that, because they learn through those relationships. Part of, and we just had this conversation the other day, part of what I'm trying to do is be a role model to them of what they should look for in a male, right? In their life. With how I treat my wife and how I treat them and how just, my spiritual, all of it. So, again, I'm not sure I answered the question, but I think a lot of this is there's the ebbs and flows of these relationships. So one of my daughters, I won't say who, if she ever watches this, she's made some choices that we felt were kind of below what she could have in a relationship. And so we were always like, you can do better as far as some of these boys that you're having relationships with. And so recently she started a new relationship with a kid that we're like, yes, that's more like what you can do, because you don't see it, but you're beautiful, you're smart, you love the Lord, you have the whole package. Right? So set the bar higher. And so it was a, and I think she saw it. She's like, oh, okay. And the confidence grows that, okay, I can.
And hearing it from your dad, I think matters. I think the man, you're the main man in your life, because you've been the main man in her life for so long, and hearing him say, like, you are worth so much, I think makes a huge difference. Because I've talked to a lot of women who didn't have dads in their life, or didn't have dads speak that, and they have no man setting a bar for them, and they'll just take whatever they can get. And I agree with you. I think those are some of the most powerful words you can speak over a daughter, is how much they are worth, especially in your eyes, but especially God's eyes.
Yeah, that's right.
So I love that. Has it been hard watching them date as a dad? If girls is
It has been hard. I mean, I think especially what goes to your mind as a teenager boy, and then you think about.
yeah.
So that's been hard, kind of knowing I know what they're thinking, but I've also learned, the other extreme is I'm gonna have the shotgun and you're gonna, that doesn't work either because kids do the opposite.
Yep.
Too. So we've tried to not, tell them what they can't do and kind of let them go along with it. But one thing we do is we want to know them.
Yes.
When they start this, come over, get to know us, have a meal with us, do things with the family.
Yes.
Right. And then we get to know them too. And also some of these boys that were like, they don't want to do that. Yeah. They're uncomfortable being around. So it's a red flag. It's like, if they don't want to be around, they're not comfortable hanging out with the family, playing games or doing different activities. That's a red flag.
Right.
Because why not? What are they hiding? Kind of thing.
Absolutely. Right? And if they're interested in them, they should be interested in you.
Thank you. Exactly.
Huh. That's a good one. I'm going to lock that one away.
So we've tried to embrace it. And it's kind of, I always joke with the boys, it's nice having some testosterone in the house and so we can talk about whatever. And so, I don't know, I've tried to embrace it and have a relationship with those boys too. Like it's important. Actually, I have a relationship with a lot of the boys that they've dated in the past that I still talk to them.
Really?
Yeah, sure.
That's awesome.
So.
Do you text back and forth or?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, so I like it and try to embrace it because I think it's important. I want them to have not a successful relationship, but a successful marriage at some point.
Absolutely. And why do we date? Is to find somebody we want to marry.
That's right.
And so one of these times it's going to be the guy you're going to be investing in forever.
Exactly right. And by the way, I love John whenever he's over. His first question is, what are you looking for in a spouse? I love it. So.
Yeah, always. Yes. I like that they gave good answers.
Yeah? Yeah. I think so. They're getting it. So.
Yes, for sure. So what have you learned as being important in raising daughters specifically? Besides maybe what we've already talked about.
Well, one thing, I don't know if it's specifically at daughters, but I'm a big believer in just, again, teaching them life. And so one thing that I think doesn't get talked about, I know it didn't in our household, was money.
Ooh, yes.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But my first career was in financial planning, and so I learned a lot about just the basics of money and how it works. Mm-hmm. And so one thing we talk a lot about, again, they could probably get the eye roll around the dinner table or whatever moments come up, is just money, just basic stuff. So I'm talking about mortgages, I'm talking about investing, I'm talking about other things with my daughters because I want them to be financially intelligent.
Right.
Because I think a lot of times that gets missed with girls. They don't, no, it's not. I want them to be wise with money.
Right.
And so anyway, so that's one thing that maybe we weren't thinking about, but
yes.
We spend a lot of time talking about money.
Absolutely, because I feel like you said, it's not necessarily a daughter's thing, but so many people go to college, get a credit card, rack it up. That's exactly right. Learn the hard way because financial stability isn't usually the table topic at dinner.
That's right.
So how do I'm curious, just as a parent, you talked about investing, you talked about mortgages, but what are other things that, I don't know, do they actually ask questions back or do you ask questions? How do you lead that conversation? So
there's a lot of things. So a lot of, it's situational what's going on in life. So some examples would be from a very young age when we go out to eat.
Yeah.
The game is how much is it?
Ooh, that's good.
How much is it? So I want them to understand the value of money. So what do we think the bill is? So I'll get it and they'll kind of guess and they'll think through. And so just how much the things cost.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then now both of them, they've all worked. Okay, so how long would it take you? How many hours would you have to work to pay for that?
That's good.
Right? Because now they're starting to learn, that's all I made? Holy cow. Because you compared to, right? So things like that. Other things like when we refinance, explaining what that is all about. Why do you do it?
Right.
So when we have big purchases, we'll talk about, we're transparent with some of the things, maybe not how much, but what we're going through, why we're doing it. And so we just try to be very transparent. One thing, I won't take the credit, Jim Cramer, the Mad Money guy, he talked about, I read an article that he wrote. So when they were little we did an investment club for the family. So I had the girls go pick a company that they liked, and then we bought some stock as a family, and then we kind of watched it. And so they learned what that was.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So, and they still talk about, we were just actually on the way to church, they were talking about the companies. They so at the time, one of my daughters was into American Girl dolls. So they researched and found out that was Mattel.
Okay.
So we bought some Mattel. Another one, Sydney liked animals. So we bought some PetSmart.
Okay.
So just stuff like that, or some Starbucks. And then they kind of understood what that was all about. So it's just real life examples, trying to make it tangible and real to them.
That so many other people would have no clue. I think that's so awesome. I mean, I didn't know any of that growing up, and I think that is really wise advice. I like that.
So
yes, because I think a lot of times, like, someone could say, talk about money with your kids, but I like that you're putting tangibles to it, because where do you even start?
Yeah, because most people there's such a illiteracy about money and how it works.
Yes.
Right? And I think that so we can help our kids a lot by teaching them that stuff.
Absolutely. And know you're a source that they could turn to if they have questions. That this isn't, I mean, I hear a lot of stories of people like, my parents didn't know how to manage money.
Right.
I hear that all the time.
I do too. I think it's a huge mistake. Yeah. But.
Yes. So that's great. So how are you intentional with your time with your daughters?
I will say it's one of my biggest struggles.
Okay.
And my wife will tell me, and these smartphones are the worst. So I work from home office, and we have a side business, and so most of my work I can do on my phone.
Right.
And it's good and it's bad. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yep.
Because not being with our family when it's that time versus being kind of there is really hard. It's really hard. And my wife does a good job of holding me accountable. We all try, because we're all everybody's on their phones nowadays, but we're trying to be in the moment. But it's a daily struggle.
Oh, I feel you.
It's a daily struggle.
When you are, I like that you're honest, but when you are intentional, because you are a great conversationalist, I feel like whatever you're doing, you're 100% in. So I imagine when you are face to face with your daughters, you're 100% in that conversation. So when you are in those situations, well, how do you get that time? Like how, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When do you seize it?
Again, it's hard. So a couple of things. So one, and this is my mom and dad did it. So when we were growing up and everybody's crazy with their sports and different things going on, the one thing we always did is had breakfast together as a family. Yeah. No matter what, that was the one meal, regardless, we were always going to have together.
Yeah. I've never heard that.
Yeah. So we've tried to do that. So, I used to travel more. Now I don't, which is nice. But when the kids are in school, that's the routine. Get up and we're going to have breakfast together as a family and then do a devotion. Yeah. And so it's that one, it's very intentional, and that's kind of become habit. It starts the day off on a good note, and you can pray as a family, whatever. So it's not a lot of time, but it's a short, and it just starts the day off the right way. So that's one thing we try to do consistently. Even just like praying as a family, meals, whether that be just at home or even out. And I think it's trying to set that example of that. They're little things like that. I think back to where I get distracted is if we're we're in the kitchen and we're all around talking about different things, and then you get distracted. The conversation is still going on, and I'm like focusing on this for this, like, and then they'll ask me a question like, what? Yeah. It's those are the moments that I just like, yeah. Right. So they get pulled away. But I don't know if I have the answer. But back to like boating, John. You guys love boating. I love that because it's a way that we're all doing the same thing and we're together, and so just trying to find things that we like doing together as a family.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you going to their sports stuff too, that time in the car, and just seizing every opportunity you can. Very
much. I mean, sports have been something that I love the game, played it when I was younger, and so it is something special with my two twins, that they both like that too, and so it's a special bond you have with them. Oh yeah. My oldest, she's much more of an entrepreneurial mindset. So we're always talking about business ideas and things like that. So we have different ones, different connection points. But yeah.
Yes, I love that. So, what do you wish you would have known about raising daughters 20 years ago?
I don't know. That's a hard one for me. It's a hard question because I've always tried to live in the now, right? And so I don't know if I was ever looking ahead. I was always kind of like going on what's now. And so when we moved away from family, we were in the West Coast for 20 years.
Yep.
And when our daughters were born in California, Southern California, we had no family around.
Yep.
So part of that was when we had our kids and they were babies, and then we had the twins, and our church there really helped us because we didn't have any family around.
Right.
But it was kind of survival mode.
Oh yeah.
For quite a while.
I believe it.
So I wasn't thinking ahead of what's coming. It was just, the survival part of it, right?
Yes.
Which, you have young kids and you understand what I mean, I think.
Yes.
But, so I don't know if I have any regrets. It was one of those things, just taking it as it comes. And there's been moments, but of thinking. But again, my wife is very wise around, especially the emotional things that I don't think about or I don't know. Those are the blind spots.
Yeah.
I think I have. So it's, she's really been helpful with a lot of those things.
You're a good pair.
I feel
like you even each other out in your strengths. Not maybe some of her weaknesses.
Yep. Her
strengths, maybe some of your weaknesses. You're better together.
We are. And by the way, that's a separate marriage topic, but the first 5 or 6 years of our marriage was hard.
Yeah.
Until that connected.
Yes. Oh.
Actually, wait a minute. We're not competing. We're on the same team, and as a team, we complement each other in our strengths.
Yes.
Right. And when you have that realization, it's like, oh.
And I feel like that's a realization most people. No one talks about that either. Like that, I feel like it's a taboo. Because if I were just to come out and sometimes I feel like I'm in competition with John. It'd be like, the whole room would be like,
right.
What's your problem?
Right. Yeah.
But it's almost that you were attracted to each other because you're different.
That's right.
But then once I feel like the enemy you're together, he's like, he's better at you than that.
Right.
Like maybe you should try it.
That's right.
And
well, and then I know my wife and I are very competitive.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. And you guys have it, right?
Yes.
But no, I think you're right. When you kind of understand we're a team together and we're not competing with anybody else. So, not each other at least. So.
And you're one flesh. You're John's victories are my victories.
That's exactly right.
And we can take credit for that
that's
in
exactly
a way, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So,
sorry, I kind of got off on the marriage thing, not the kid thing. So.
No, I love it. I think it was for somebody, for sure. So, last question, Cory. If you could give one piece of lasting wisdom in your experience as a father to everyone who's listening, what would it be?
So I think it would be that, and again, I think my mom and dad and my grandparents set an amazing foundation. Yeah. And it was, the one word is authenticity. And so I think that, we both, Penn and I, grew up in Christian homes. Yeah. But also we never wavered that far off the path. And I think the reason why is because our parents and our grandparents were authentic in their faith. Yes. And in, life. And that always made sense to me, right? And they admitted when they were wrong. They admitted, and they kind of, we were part of the struggles and the good and the bad and just kind of lived it. We weren't hiding anything. So we've tried to do that, just be authentic, not only in our relationship. One thing we've done too is let our kids, when they were very little, know that our relationship, it was God, it was our relationship, and then it was the family. Right. It wasn't flipped. Right. And so they understood that kind of order, that's important. So we were very intentional about that. But back to, it was authenticity in everything that we do, and just admitting we're not perfect. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes, but here's the best thing. The best thing we know. Here's why I made the decision. Yes. And it's always this. Well, that's not fair. It's not fair. Life's not fair, but you get what you need. Yep. Yes. Those kinds of things is how we've tried to.
And I just read that it is okay. Example, you can't go over to that person's house. Why? I have a bad feeling. I don't know.
That's right.
And it's okay to not know, and it's okay for them not. You just say that to them.
That's right.
But I feel like a lot of times we feel like we have to have these reasons. And I love that you said be authentic. Don't make up something. Right. Tell them I just don't have a good feeling.
And we see that a lot where I think parents try to protect their kids too much. I think it's a big issue in this generation, actually, where we're trying to protect our kids too much. That's how they learn. They learn by going through difficult experiences. So, I mean, your instinct is protect them.
Right.
But you have to let them go through it. That's the only way they learn.
When the stakes are low.
Yeah, that's right.
You protect them when the stakes are low, then the stakes are high, and they've never even had any opportunity to fail.
That's exactly right.
I agree with you. But there is. I feel the pull as a parent to like,
We all do, yeah. You want to jump in and rescue them, but you can't. And so
No.
you got to let them go through it. So, yeah. I hope that helps. So those are some things that I think about that, just be authentic and let your kids learn the lessons.
Yes.
It's the only way to learn them.
Well, and I think there's such a sinful is a pretty strong word, but like there's this pull in me, I know, when like I've screwed up, you don't need to apologize. Even like they're too little, they don't, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Like it's gonna make you look weak. They're not gonna listen. You hear all these lies when it's like, no, do the right thing.
Yep.
Apologize for what was wrong. Mommy's decision was right, but her heart was wrong.
That's right.
Like,
yeah, for sure.
Most of the time, it's the anger, it's the whatever. My decision was on. It was my sinful actions.
Yep.
But I think being authentic, and I think when you aren't authentic, you make yourself a god. You put yourself on this podium that like they're gonna learn when they're older.
Yeah.
That you
That's
fall
good.
way short of. And I'd rather them know now, like mom is not God. Like mom makes
That's
mistakes,
right.
and we, like you said, that hierarchy, like God is God.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just doing the best we can.
That's right.
Trying to follow him.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Cory. This was such a great conversation.
Oh, thank you. It was
Yes.
fun and passionate about my kids, so it's fun to talk about them.
Yeah, and you're a great dad. You're such a great dad, and thank you for that. And I leave you guys with this. As parents and those who are watching who have kids, and if you don't have kids, as Christians, we're called to authenticity. So whatever we do, let's be honest. And no matter what, let's make sure we show the world that we are not God, that we are imperfect, and we're following the only one who is perfect, which is Jesus. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we cannot wait to catch you next time. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on our other social media platforms. We don't want you to miss out on any future content. Thank you so much again, guys. I hope you have a great day. And I want you to know I am personally praying that your roots stay strong.